right, we'll call this meeting to order, and this is a special City Commission meeting. It is March 16th, 2020, Monday at 1 o'clock, and we have 2A to consider at this time.
Ordinance number 2020-15, an ordinance recognizing the declaration of a public health emergency issued by the Governor of the State of Florida, effective throughout the State of Florida, including Volusia County and the municipalities situated therein, recognizing a declaration of a local state of emergency issued by Volusia County and being effective throughout Volusia County, including the municipalities situated therein, declaring a local state of emergency in the City of Ormond Beach, authorizing the exercise of emergency management procedures in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Ormond Beach and members of the general public, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first and only reading of ordinance number 2020-15, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. And I just need a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. The motion I need, pursuant to conversations with the city attorney, would include for Section 3, Section 4, and Section 5, changing the words 100 in number to, quote, the limitation provided in the CDC's guidelines, such number currently being limited to no more than 50 people at a gathering, unquote, or some words similar to that. And my understanding in talking with Randy Hayes is that since this was drafted on Saturday, and Randy, thank you for working hard late Friday and then quite long on Saturday. Since it was drafted on Saturday, the CDC has reduced the 100 number to 50 people at a gathering. And that could change again. We just don't know. This is a fluid situation. And so to build a little fluidity into the ordinance, we would need a motion that included amending Section 3, Section 4, and Section 5 to include that language.
Motion to amend sections 3, 4, and 5 to include the language that was stated by the mayor per the city attorney and the CDC guidelines.
Second.
Perfect. Where'd Randy? Oh, Randy, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. Been moved and seconded, and we'll move in to discussion. We certainly are living in highly unusual and, in fact, historic times. Today's actions of declaring an emergency and continuing tomorrow night's budget workshop and commission meetings are designed to comply with declarations of emergency at the national, state, and county level, and further consistent with direction from the CDC regarding best practices in preparing for and responding to the COVID-19 disease, more commonly referred to as the coronavirus. The actions we take today will allow some flexibility in contracting, will allow us to apply for certain things regarding FEMA reimbursement, and are necessary to protect the health and welfare of all our residents. Certainly we urge all our residents to practice social distancing, not to gather in groups of 50 or more as recommended by the CDC and other health professionals. And although we hate to cancel events and cause disruptions in the economy, we do believe it is important to get ahead of or smooth the curve, the trajectory of the COVID-19 disease. The purpose in doing that is so that those who need hospital services will have access to them when or if the time comes. Certainly we hope it never comes to that, but just in case. For those considered elderly or in an immune-compromised condition, we should do everything we can as able-bodied individuals to make sure those services are available to the people that need them. I hate to see a kid's baseball game canceled. You know that the kids and the coaches, probably even the parents, will survive and be fine even if they were exposed to the COVID-19. But you worry about the grandparents who come to watch those games or who are visited days after the game, that they could be exposed and potentially risk serious illness and/or death. So it's the prudent course of action, given current direction from health professionals in the CDC, to take these actions. Please remember that we're all in this together. Each of your actions plays a role in our community's health. Practice social distancing and escalated hygiene, and let's take care and keep an eye out for those who are immune compromised and the elderly. Also, please remember our local businesses during this time. Continue to patronize those places in the safest way possible, whether it's takeout or drive-through, shopping when times are slower, and all the while maintaining appropriate social distancing while you do those things. That's basically everything I had to say. Commission, anyone want to start? Deputy Mayor Kent.
Yeah, and just briefly, I agree with everything the mayor just said. But Ms. Shanahan, as I was walking into the meeting, I was receiving messages from constituents who have weddings planned at the Casements on April 4th. I'm just asking that you make sure that staff, you may have an answer to that, is what staff's going to be doing as far as reaching out to people and letting them know about their plans that they have set here with the city for different events and functions they may be planning in the future.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kent. Right now, we are only closed through March 31st. We will reevaluate that, but Leisure Services will be reaching out to all of those individuals that have private arrangements for city facilities.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Commissioner Selby.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I wanted to thank staff and everybody who worked on this, over the weekend. This is, as you mentioned, a fluid situation, new information arriving almost hourly, certainly daily. I do think that our role is primarily leading by example, and then also sharing information so that people can make informed decisions about their own behavior. The personal responsibility involved is really, really important. And with the exception of what I understand is a couple of cases up in the Boston area, if I'm not mistaken, that involved younger people. This, so far, what we know is that it primarily involves older people that are immune compromised or have pulmonary issues. So, with that being said, I also wanted to say that I appreciate the work by our Economic Development Director, Brian Rademacher, for updating businesses in the community relative to resources that are available for this. I also think it's really, really important that we continue to patronize, and as you mentioned, Mayor, in a way that is safe, local businesses. We have, I think, a huge abundance of small businesses in the Ormond Beach area, greater Daytona Beach area, and we need to, as safely as possible, patronize those. I did have one question. I don't know if anybody in the room can answer it, but I was forwarded an email from the referenced Sheriff Chitwood, who cited that there are, by city, he cited the number of cases of people who are being monitored for the virus. And I don't know if anybody can speak to that, because he specifically mentioned Ormond Beach with 4 cases, and, as well as Daytona Beach, Port Orange, New Smyrna, et cetera, with various numbers.
Right now, the health department was not releasing that information to the public. From what I understand from his Facebook post, that he, as an emergency responder, was privy to that information. I thought I understood from the governor's office that they were going to direct health departments to release those by city. Chief, do you have any other information?
Well, and if I may, but I think the distinction I'm trying to make here is what he references is these are people who are being monitored. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I'm curious, what's the difference between, you've taken the test and you have the virus versus you're being monitored, and how do they know who to monitor?
Well, first of all, I think there's 5 positive tests for COVID-19 in Ormond Beach. Correct? Well, I think there's 4. I thought there was one recently. 4. What they've been doing is doing epidemiology research about who those people have had contact with, and that's why they're monitoring additional people. Like if I was at home and I had COVID-19, they would be monitoring Chris and everybody I had contact with at City Hall, and you would all be considered part of that monitoring group. until I was either tested negative or I tested positive, then they would begin testing others.
Exactly.
So there's
That really kind of
there's
covers it all.
So that means there's 4 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Ormond Beach?
As I understand, yes.
Okay, that's news to me. All right, thank you.
Are they travel related? Do we know
Yes,
that?
they were all travel related. We know that. And again, we would have that information of where they're located. We do have that, but that is not public.
The emergency responders have that information, so they're aware when they respond to that situation.
Because what's confusing, and look, and I know you all can't speak for Sheriff Chitwood, but his message goes on to say, these are not all positive tests. There are only 3 presumptive positive results in Volusia County. This email is dated March 14th, Saturday. I don't know when this message was posted on Facebook.
I think it was posted either Saturday night or Friday night.
And again, I'm not trying.
speak for the chief.
I know, and I'm not trying to.
sheriff.
I'm not trying to pin anything on anybody, but this is. I don't even
Commissioner,
understand what this really
they're
means.
just quarantined right now. So they're not, we don't know if they're exactly positive, but they had symptoms, and they're in quarantine until those tests come back.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe they traveled internationally. Again, we're speculating. They
Yes,
traveled
or were in
internationally,
contact
and
with
now they have
somebody
a
that
fever.
traveled.
They have a cough.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, we definitely know they're all travel related at this point. I believe it, right, no, not community spread at all. And we know that there's, I think just update I just got from Department of Health just a few minutes ago, is like 6 cases countywide. So that's what they're looking at. Yeah.
Being tested.
Testing, yep.
And it takes 24 to 48 hours to get
Right.
those tests back. So we get updates like once a day from the Department of Health. I think they're changing that to twice a day moving forward, so we'll have a better indication, and we'll be sure to share those numbers with you.
And all you get is countywide,
Right now, that's all we receive.
but the chief gets by city.
Emergency responders get the information by city so that they can prepare when they have to go to that address.
And it's the state declaration of emergency management that prevents us from knowing that?
That's correct.
Because
I think it's a HIPAA requirement, you know, that.
Well, they've said that.
Pardon me?
They've said that. I wonder if that's really true.
Well, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they're telling us, so that's all I have to go on.
I'm gonna err on the side of more information helps people to be better prepared. That's what I think. More transparency is better. So in one sense, I laud the sheriff for doing this, and I would encourage us to be as transparent as possible.
I appreciate that, but right now we're following the guidance of the health department, and as I understand, the Governor DeSantis, I think, may release that information by community in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Persis.
Yeah, I was wondering what the steps are for a person to be tested for this. Like if someone just thought, oh my gosh, I have a fever, maybe I should be tested. What is the procedure?
Well, first of all, they're telling you that if you feel like you are ill and you're having breathing difficulties and you're running a fever, to call your doctor. Don't go to the doctor's office. Then your doctor will give you an order to be tested. It depends on how many test kits are available right now. I don't have information to those availabilities. Then you'll be either directed to your doctor's lab or to I think it's Quest and LabCorp that can also do those testing. Now, those tests continue to have to go to like the 3 health departments in Florida, 1 in Jax, 1 in Miami, and 1 in Tampa for confirmation. So when you test, if it has a presumptive positive, then they forward that to the health department labs, and then they determine whether or not that's a valid test until such time you're considered presumptive positive. Once it's come back from the health department, you're declared positive. If you're presumptive positive, as I understand it, then they will strongly recommend that you self-isolate for 14 days.
Okay. And then just on another topic, is there any possibility of once we hope this kind of is over, this self-distancing, social distancing, that they can bring back like the t-ball and the baseball for kids?
Absolutely. We'll do whatever we can. But right now, we're following the guidance of the CDC, and that's 50 people or fewer. So that's what we're
Okay.
doing. But right now, our city facilities and events are canceled through March 31st. We'll continue to reevaluate that I know this declaration goes for 60 days,
Right.
but it gives us the latitude to make those changes as conditions change.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions or comments? All right, we have a amended motion and an amended second. We've had discussion. If there's nothing else at this time, Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And now we move to 3A. This is a staff action item regarding cancellation of tomorrow night's budget workshop and city commission meeting.
Do you want to speak, Cole?
If you just want to make a motion and a second to cancel it, someone.
I move to
Mr. Mayor?
cancel the March 17th City Commission meeting.
Second.
That includes the workshop.
Oh, that includes the workshop before that at 5:30.
Second that also.
Thank you. Any discussion? I think this goes to what Commissioner Selby talked about, leading by example. Canceling the meeting. We often have more than 50 people here in the chambers, and we don't want people to feel shut out of the process. Not that anybody would, but anything that we would talk about or pass on that agenda, if somebody, because of the current state of affairs, didn't feel comfortable coming here to speak on it or provide input, could later be concerned that they were shut out of that process. So that's why we're doing that, leading by example. Another issue why I think it's prudent to postpone the budget is, depending on what happens in the next few weeks, all of us may have a different idea or approach to how we approach the entire budget process. So that gives us some time to let things shake out, and then we'll be able to go from there. So, anyone else? If no further discussion, Colby, please call the vote on 3A.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. We move to 4A, which is a discussion on when we should reschedule. And Joyce, did you have any guidance as far as what some of the other cities were doing? I want to say the CDC had recommended 8 weeks. I don't know if we want to go that long.
Most of the cities are either conducting emergency meetings today or have regularly scheduled meetings tomorrow. Of those cities, there's several that only have meetings once a month. So those meetings have either already occurred or they've canceled them. So that's really up to you, but I think if you want to, out of an abundance of caution, you could also cancel the April 7th meeting, which would give us enough time to have all of your second readings re-advertised as we would have to. And then at that time, as you got closer to that, we could decide if you needed, do they need another emergency meeting to cancel a meeting? Randy?
The charter gives the authority to the commission to cancel a meeting. However, the commission, in these circumstances, I believe, could delegate the authority for cancellation either to the city manager or even to the mayor. The mayor has the authority under the charter to call a special meeting. So if the commission wanted to delegate that authority, I think that would be okay in these circumstances.
Thank you, Randy.
Otherwise, they'd have to come and cancel it.
So
Tomorrow
going-
was your regularly scheduled second meeting of the month, so that's why I'm recommending that April
Correct.
7th be canceled as well.
If we went to April 21st, that would be almost 6 weeks. Does that seem like it's enough time?
Yes.
Is everybody comfortable with
I am.
that amount of time? If there was something that came up as an emergency that, we're all going to be around, that we needed to act on, certainly either the attorney or city manager could let me know, and we could take care of that.
Well, I just think about stuff that's in the pipeline, Mayor, and, people that are working on rezonings and development orders and so forth. And if we, look, I want to be, is it possible that, the resolution, the action we just took was through the end of March. could we wait and see whether or not, when's the latest we could cancel that meeting?
We need 10 days before you have a meeting to get the proper advertising done. So, Colby, do you have a date?
Yeah, it's usually about 2 weeks that we would be able to get it advertised in the paper for anything if we were going to get rid
That's
of
only
it.
a few days from now, really, 2 weeks, if you,
Almost
April
there.
7th. And today's the 16th, so,
Yeah, I would be sending the ads for like the April 7th meeting next week.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday of next week. Okay, all right. That's,
The 21st, I think,
yeah.
looks the best. Anyone
Do you
else?
want a motion to do that, Mayor?
Sure.
I'll move that we cancel the April 7th regularly scheduled City Commission meeting.
I second the motion.
Any more discussion on that? Deputy Mayor Kent.
Yes, and I'm pleased that we're actually doing that right now, this afternoon. My concern now comes to the 21st and something that Mr. Hayes said. Randy, do we need to do anything special on the dais up here to give the mayor the authority? Let's say the 14th comes around as we're getting close to the 21st, and this has progressed even worse. Instead of us having another special meeting to stop the 21st, do we need to do something in this motion to give the mayor that authority to be able to make that call?
Yeah, there are a couple ways we can do that. One, we could amend the ordinance that we just approved to include that. Another way to do that is to modify the rules of parliamentary procedure, which in large part are based on charter requirements.
Randy, can I jump in really quickly? Because you answered it. Thank you. I would feel more comfortable if the motion, the maker of the motion and the seconder amended it to where, and hopefully we don't need that. Hopefully on the 21st we're back to business as usual. But if we're not, that this gives the mayor the authority to make that decision, so we don't have to come back for yet another special meeting and, bring the public into a potentially dangerous situation. So something we may not need. I just think it's a good insurance policy to have in case we do need it. So
I agree.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the motion to amend by Deputy Mayor Kent, this is ordinance number 2020-15, and seconded by Commissioner Persis.
Yes, let me make sure we have a clear record on this. So essentially what we're doing is a reconsideration of that item. So we're going to reopen it as if it's open on a table, and then this will be the second amendment to that. So just so that the record's clear. Okay.
Thank you.
10-4.
You comfortable with that, Colby?
Yep, I'm good.
And you've got the language?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any other discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes, so the amendment is approved, and now the entire ordinance as amended, ordinance number 2020-15. Is there somebody that wants to move it
Sure, I'll move it.
Second.
and second it? Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes, and with that, if there's any closing comments, and I didn't know, City Manager, did you want to give an update on closures at this time, just briefly, and then we'll go to Commissioner Persis?
Just a brief summary. I wanted to let you know that the Volusia County EOC has activated to level 2. That's a partial activation. We're partially activated at the fire department for partial activating, just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, just to monitor what's going on. Right now, we have incremental closures at city parks and facilities. All indoor events are canceled. All sporting events are canceled. That's through March 31st. As we move forward, we'll continue to evaluate that. The ball fields are technically locked. You can't go in there. The concern was by Leisure Services that they would have some unorganized practices, and we didn't want those groups to get together. City Hall remains open. There are some restricted areas like police and fire where they have canceled visitor tours and the like. We're encouraging all residents to save a trip to City Hall, just about anything you need to do, pay your utility bill, have questions about permits or pay your building permit or inspection fee or business license tax can be done online. And you can always call City Hall and we can help you with that. Of course, we're encouraging social distancing, as you all have demonstrated here today. We don't do utility shutoffs during emergencies like hurricanes, and we're using the same protocol here. If there are late fees that are associated with COVID-19, we'll review those on a case-by-case basis. We're taking extra precautions at our public parks where the restrooms, we're cleaning those, I think, 3 times a day, twice a day. I will tell you, we're getting some toilet paper stolen out of those facilities because I guess it's in short supply. And we're also working on reviewing some sort of COVID-19 leave policy. Our sister cities are reviewing that. We haven't formulated anything yet. If you're sick, we encourage people to stay home. And if you have a COVID-19 related illnesses, some cities are telling those people to stay home, and they will do some sort of leave bank or administrative leave if they have a documented case with a positive test. So we'll review that and let you know if there's anything that we're going to do on that matter. Any questions for me?
I have a question. So, like public tennis courts, or do they remain open?
Yes, I think so.
So it's
Yeah.
so it's just the organized sports. It's
Organized
like
sports and events,
organized team
yes.
sports and all indoor activities.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Like the Performing Arts Center, I was notified this morning that also the museum is following that. So all of those city facilities. There was a fast pitch softball tournament that was supposed to take place near the end of the month. That's canceled. We've notified that individual. So that's all I have unless you have questions.
Thank you, City Manager. And Commissioner Persis.
Yeah. This is not on the topic of the COVID virus, but I've received a few calls about a gentleman from our community. His name is Rick Ferrito, and I think everybody probably up here knows who he is, and apparently battling cancer stage 4 from what I understand. And I've had a request that to maybe if we could vote on this at some other time about naming Boundless Playground after him. I know he's been really involved in baseball and t-ball and started, I know he's been on the Leisure Services Advisory Board for many, many years. And I just maybe want to have a little discussion about that with some of you I know that have been on the commission for a long time, probably know a lot more than I do. But I went to high school with this gentleman, and, just wanted to see what everybody else thought.
Thank you. Yep. Today's meeting isn't really the
I can't do it today.
best time to talk about that. It wasn't agenda'd, but it's something for us all to keep
can
in the
put it
back of
on
our
the-
minds for once we're back in regular session. So thank you for sharing that. We'll certainly keep him in our thoughts and prayers and take a look at that shortly, I would imagine. Anyone have any closing remarks? I'll just thank Debbie Cotton and Karen Baker, our chamber leadership, for being here, Tom Caffrey, Billy Joe. Thank you all for being here. Certainly, it's a concerning time for your membership and our entire city. We're sensitive to that, and I think social distancing says it all. We all need to practice that and still support our local businesses. I also appreciate Pastor Smith from First United Methodist Church and other members of our faith community who are participating, paying close attention, and taking their own precautions. Certainly a big segment of our population, and we thank you. Thank you for your involvement, and appreciate your prayers and support as well for all of us during this time. And unless there's anything else, we will be adjourned. Thank you all.